Okay, good afternoon, or maybe I should say good morning, depending on your location. Welcome to today's presentation. Today we're going to talk a lot about the future of manufacturing, and I'm really proud to be partnered up with Autodesk to provide you a glimpse into some of the technologies that are available at your fingertips that go kind of beyond the model. I do promise I'll be brief, as I know the view or a demo of the products is really what you're here for. But I am George Wright. I'm the Vice President of M2 Technologies. Can we please flip to the next slide? And with me is Wayne Griffenberg from Autodesk, who focuses a lot on the CAD and CAM applications, but really has a good sense and a good working relationship with a number of the technologies that Autodesk does provide you. Who we are, we're M2 Technologies. We really do strive to be that transformation agent that our customers need as they prepare for the future and they prepare to adopt new technologies, new processes, new workflows, to be competitive, to move into new market sectors, or really to produce more in a more efficient manner. We have offices across the US, but really our customers take us to many more locations that are illustrated here and locations overseas. We're an Autodesk Gold Partner, we're an authorized training center, and we have a team of technical resources, software developers, and local account executives to help you navigate our organization to find the right approach for you. I do mention technical consultants. We do provide a complete line of implementation services, everything that goes from training your teams to mentoring to staff augmentation, and we align each of those efforts with a plan to make sure that stakeholders have involvement and visibility into the effort along the way. At this moment, I'm going to turn the floor over to Wayne to do an introduction and to take us into our demo and presentation of the solutions. Wayne, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you, George. So thank you for having me here. I really appreciate being part of this relationship with M2 Technologies, and working with Autodesk. It's an awesome place to work for. So I'm happy to be able to be here to talk about some of our solutions. One thing I'd like to add in, my perspective of working with Autodesk and working with Autodesk tools. In the past, I've worked in the 80s and through the 90s and 2000s and working with a lot of different software and design and manufacturing. I started in the medical industry working for a small company where we were making incubators and warmers, and for little tiny customers, and that was an amazing experience, and working with AutoCAD back then, and expanding that into tools like we used FeatureCAM then, and CNC machines to make some of the hoods for the acrylic hoods for the incubators, and it was just an amazing experience to work with some great engineers and learn about software and how it connects to our industry. And I did that for about maybe 10 years or almost 10 years, and moved on to another company where we were making implant knees and hips using Autodesk tools like Inventor and other tools that we worked with in the field. But did that for about 5 years, and we developed some knees and hips, which were brand new on the market. And again, it was amazing to learn about that whole process of how implants go through their lifespan, especially learning about the medical industry and the requirements and the quality management system in such an industry where doctors are working on patients and they need answers right away, and you can't have a patient on the table and wait for a hip. So they have to have their world in a fast-paced world, but where we were in design, we had to go and follow all those SOPs and procedures. So I can appreciate where a lot of our audience today, as you're developing and designing your components and designing your parts and assemblies for release and manufacture, that whole gamut and process in which you have to adhere to be able to get a good quality product in the end. And what I'd like to talk to about to you guys today is that gamut. As back in when I first started working with AutoCAD, that's how I saw Autodesk, was just the AutoCAD and the 2D CAD and a little bit of the 3D CAD world with Inventor. And I quickly learned that the focus, especially over the years working and learning from people like Carl Bass, where the focus of Autodesk is, we saw it was really important to get a very strong handle and point of view on what it means to design and manufacture products all the way through that quality management system. So that was just a little bit of a background of mine, but I'd like to go through with you today and talk about what some of those software integrations look like. And that's what we're talking about, is an integrated workflow throughout manufacturing, and from design all the way through to manufacturing a part. Autodesk does work with a lot of tools for the design side, but a lot of our audience and a lot of people we talk to aren't really have a good handle. They don't have a good handle on exactly what those tools are. So let's talk about that. We're going to focus on manufacturing today, but we do have some tools that take you all the way through from design and all the way through to a shipped product. So we're going to take a look at, let me change this real quick. So our agenda today is to get you a good understanding and an overview of what that process solution landscape looks like, where Autodesk fits in with that quality management system, where we have tools that can cover you throughout that whole gamut of design and manufacture. We're going to focus, and I'm going to talk about some of the software for product manufacturers that I think were tools that are developed and were grown within Autodesk to be able to help you with each of those different facets of your product manufacturing needs. So, and also, I just want to let you know that this is going to be more of a start of a webinar series. So we're going to give you an overview today of these different tools. But in the future, we're going to be working with M2 Technologies to bring to you a deeper dive into each one of these solutions. But it's good to start here so that you have a very strong understanding of what each of these tools are and how they can help you in your business to help you grow. Okay. Hopefully this will give you a good idea of what that landscape looks like. Some of you may have worked within the industry under ISO 9000. If you're in medical, it's 13485. If you have SAE and you're working in automotive or even in aerospace, of course, you have to follow specific SOPs. And this landscape sort of covers that from the gamut of understanding the sales input, from sales and marketing all the way through to design, where you're planning out your design, how you're going to work with your products, prove them out for manufacturing, and in the end, go through that quality management process. At the end, you have your product that your end customers are going to use. And in some cases, we do work somewhere in the phases throughout that design solution landscape. So as you see here, each of these different components, where we go from sell all the way through to support, from collaboration, design, simulation, and manufacture. Throughout the gamut, each one of these places is where Autodesk has a functional and integrated tool to help you grow within this landscape. We're going to focus today mainly on that manufacture and supply chain, so that we have tools. And if you see in the green areas where we're talking about prototyping and manufacturing prep, we have tools like generative design within our product design and manufacturing collection. But when we talk about specifically for manufacturer, we look at the factory design, qualifying the parts, how we're going to make them, how we're going to outsource them, if we're getting components in from vendors. What does that process look like? From tooling design all the way through to maintaining your equipment, working with your machines that are going to actually make up the components, additive and subtractive manufacturing, production tracking, and all the way through quality. So a lot of these tools in here aren't only for manufacture. We are integrated throughout the entire process of developing a product. But we're going to focus on some of those tools as I switch here. Bring this over. These are tools that we have, some in our manufacturing or product design and manufacturing collection. Some are outside of there where they are more standalone tools that are specific to industry and specific to the way that you work in your business. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these. We're going to focus on the ones that I feel and we feel are specific for being able to manufacture a product, not just only in design, but really focus on manufacturing. But as you can see, when we collaborate, one of the main features is that we have that information flow is easy to work with and be able to extend that extend part of our design through manufacture to be able to collaborate with each other. And we have many tools like BIM 360, which is in the build industry. And today we see a lot of that merge of building and design as well as manufacture. So many buildings, in fact, we have a few companies we're working with that actually assemble buildings as a manufacturing process. They would actually bring in almost like an on-site industrial factory to be able to build the rooms and build floors module by module as if they're going through that same manufacturing process. And so to be able to collaborate and work together on those processes, we see the strength in the future of those converging worlds. And other ways that we collaborate. Now, we're not going to get into all those tools, but using Fusion Team, Fusion Lifecycle. Fusion is our future cloud integration tool, working with tools like Shotgun and Vault to control and work with data and all the way across the board. So we're not going to spend too much time in a design interface, but you can see these products are what we are focusing on as we go through our collections in the future, and products that we focus on to bring that integration to help you grow throughout Autodesk. So we have, of course, design is very strong within Autodesk. When we talk about simulation, and not only simulation in the product itself, but also being able to simulate as we go through our assembly line. We're trying to make what we call as a digital twin, right? So if the more information you have at your fingertips in the PC, or if you will, the cloud world, that matches what we have going on in the actual world on the factory, the more connected we're going to be with any changes, and the more quickly we can iterate throughout our design and our manufacturing process to meet up to those demand needs. So we do have tools like manufacture for Moldflow, which works specifically for injection mold, or if you're mold with metals and different plastics. Nastran for doing simulation, CFD if you're going to do more fluid dynamics integration in your process. But we do have those tools. We're going to focus mainly on these tools during our talk today. So looking at Fusion 360, which is our future product innovation platform, and how it connects all the way across throughout all of our products. And over on the right, all the manufacture tools, factory design to lay out your factory, FeatureCAM, HSM, NetFabb, PowerMill, PowerShape, and TruNest are the manufacturing tools that we are integrating within our processes to help you work and grow within your industry and your company. So we're going to focus on those tools today. So to give you a little bit more of an understanding of what each of those products are, we're going to do a little bit of an overview of each as we walk through now. So, and if you guys have any questions, please feel free and use the questions tab on your GoToMeeting, and please feel free to ask. And if you like, we can take a break towards the end and try to get to some of those questions. Okay, so our factory design utilities. Many people didn't know that we had such integration and such tools that we can use to lay out the entire factory. So if you're going to make a product, of course, we have machines, we have assembly lines, we have that workflow, warehouse, where we're going to get different components and how it connects through our ERP system and all the way through to shipping. Now, you can lay this out, and many people do lay out their designs in AutoCAD and other tools where you can create those digital assets for each of those components. And as we start to dig deeper into factory design in the future, you can see how you can use those assets to help control your environment, as well as to do an actual simulation flow to see where you could take out some of the waste in, and maybe even add some innovation into your building and your assembly manufacturing facility. So we do have these factory layout tools where you can do integration with Inventor or AutoCAD and make those assets. You can work with them, simulating that process. And these are places where, and on the bottom, you can see some benefits that we get from being able to do that. So this is a tool that you can use to help you the layout and design and work with your products and easily keep track of any changes that happen along the way. So you're going to reduce your time on changes, reduce your time on your standard operating procedures, and in this way you can actually increase your revenue. Okay, so that's factory design utilities and HSM. So Autodesk had acquired HSM a few years ago. HSM stands for High Speed Machining, and it was actually the gold partner that worked with SolidWorks as a plugin. And they actually were an independent team and were developing CAM toolpaths for other CAM systems. Autodesk acquired them and started to grow that product inside of Autodesk tools like Inventor, and today it's inside of Fusion 360. And that's where, when you think of HSM, it's integrated CAM, and it's easy to use to work with, but it's integrated with Fusion, Inventor, and SolidWorks. As you can see, we can cover a wide gamut of standard CAM operations that work with most machines in our industry. We do have some options to optimize those toolpaths and be able to work directly with your part. So that's where we come into that integration, where you have your actual Inventor part. You're able to put CAM toolpaths directly on that part, so if any changes happen to that part, it automatically updates inside the CAM environment. You get the code to your machine within minutes versus hours. So those bullet points talking about the different features, it's easy to use. You can reuse. In other words, you can make templates of all of your standard operating procedures and shall I say, templates of your procedures for machining. And all these things reduce the cost and time it takes to make those changes, and you're integrated in that process early. So if you're working with developing a process, or developing a product as well as your process, where changes do happen. Imagine working through and making something new. You will change it, but the great part is that if you're proving out your design, if you're testing it, making prototypes, and you make those changes early, you're going to get the results early to show you exactly how to manufacture it. And this will tie back into that factory flow. So this is what HSM is. So when you hear of Autodesk HSM, it's an integrated CAM interface for Inventor, for Fusion, and SolidWorks. And we talk about Fusion 360. This is our product innovation platform. Fusion 360 is our cloud-based development tool, and it's for developing your products. It's inexpensive, again, easy to use. You can design and engineer, do simulation. You can do your renderings. You can do a lot of your development. The components you would do for CAM and working through has that integration inside of Fusion. So again, that integrated HSM. Generative design is our future. Generative design, working with an AI to be able to send your design requirements onto our servers in the cloud. There's an iteration that the AI goes through and uses tools of predicate built designs, iterates, and brings back to you many different design ideas that you wouldn't normally think of to bring back into your products. And this is all part of Fusion 360. So it expands from that development and design stage all the way through to machining your components, setting up your machines, of course, collaboration tools built in, and in the end, it's going to streamline your development process to keep you ahead of your competition. So that's Fusion 360. Fusion Team. Now this is our online collaboration. I just want to bring this in here because it does connect many of those parts throughout the manufacturing process. From design, from development, communication is key, especially when you can check and catch some of those places where it could be devastating to some companies when you hit a point in your manufacturing process where the part you find is, or at least the latest design rev, isn't makeable. And so we're able to find those places, iterate the design early, being able to communicate with everyone in the project directly over the cloud. So through Fusion 360 Team, this is actually a Fusion team, it brings all those different pieces together, all those people who have to interact, all those process owners in your quality management system. And we're able to use this to track your projects and get to those design and device device master record requirements early in the process. And it's a tool that you can use throughout the entire build. Okay, so this is a collaboration tool, Fusion Team. And to get back into some of the CAM aspects, so for FeatureCAM, this is a standalone CAM system where it is feature-based. So when you bring in a model, and it doesn't have to be an Inventor model, an Autodesk part, it doesn't have to be, or shall I say, AutoCAD or Fusion. You can bring in your components, and if it's a standardized component that you would make, let's say 10,000 of, it's a great tool to standardize and automate that programming process. You set up your parameters in the initial setup, so you kind of put in your limitations or the exact capabilities of your machine, the tools that you're working with, and it'll take that information, and when you bring a part in, it'll actually iterate and make some toolpaths for you. It'll find the most optimized toolpaths that'll save you tool life to be able to keep manufacturing, or even take those changes and put it across many different machines. So FeatureCAM, if you have a high volume manufacturing, you want to automate your CAM programming process to standardize on some of those SOPs. This is where FeatureCAM comes in really helpful and handy. So again, standalone, it's not specific to any CAD interface. It's a very powerful tool if you make many of the similar parts or part families, and it's good for standardizing to meet those quality management processes. So that's what FeatureCAM is. We have a product, TruNest. So many of our manufacturers, we make components that would be sheet metal parts or composite parts within aerospace and automotive, where we have a large quantity of parts that are being placed and put onto similar sheets on similar machines. This is a place where you can nest your parts and optimize them for manufacturing. So we have this capability now inside of Autodesk that we can drive large production facilities to connect to all the different machines that you can use, in this case for lasers, water jets, plasma, and the different types of torts and punch machines. And so we're able to have those parts go into a sheet, if you will, and optimize them so that you can cut one part, and while you're cutting and roughing one part, you could be finishing the other in this same pass. So these are places where you can optimize those tool paths. You could set up for high volume on different sheets of material, and it would also optimize them by thickness too. So, and this is a direct integration to your ERP system as well, and it's a connector from your design all the way through to your output. So integration, we do integrate with other Autodesk tools. There are some integrated workflows that you can work with, as you can see. And we, like we said, we support most machines in the industry. So when it comes to, let's say, routers, and it comes to plasma jets, plasma cutters, water jets, lasers, and you have high volume, TruNest is an invaluable tool to optimize your workflow. NetFabb. So NetFabb is, we see it a lot with companies who are doing some reverse engineering. And when you're taking a look at components that you can't find anywhere, like very old cars, we have companies who work with large ships, and some of the parts that were made during a time where there was no CAD and there was very few drawings. And so what we can do, and it's not only limited to parts, you can do this with the whole facility as well. But for the most part, we do this with 3D models to be able to do a scan or optimize those scans, and we get data clouds or point clouds. And from there, we're able to recreate a solid model. And there are some pretty neat tools that you can do, especially when we get a connectivity to generative design, where we can go in and create some of those lattices that you see in the bottom right there, to make some new ways to integrate geometry into your design, to make it more lightweight, to even, in some cases, increase the factor of safety, if you will, the more robust the part can be. And also, it's and in some industries, I see companies that are using it in medical, where they can define the part and make it a little bit more organic so that it blends more with the natural body. Right, so we see bone grafts, we see implants, where people, companies are developing those implants with features that represent bone, that are very close to bone, and areas where bone can grow into easily into those implants. So these are some benefits, but one of the main things is that you're able to get additive manufacturing solutions out of this. So you could take different models, design them, develop them, and bring some of your models into this interface to make it easy to 3D print. And as we get into the future, we're going to see a lot more metal 3D printing, and this is going to be a tool that many industries are using today and will use to optimize and grow when they're getting into additive manufacturing. So that's what NetFabb is. It's basically building up those parts for 3D printing, as well as being able to optimize your parts for lightweighting as well as rigidity. Okay, that's NetFabb. PowerShape. PowerShape is a tool that we would work with if we take that model, for instance, that we would make from NetFabb, and there's some places where we'd like to make it a little bit more robust for machining process. PowerShape is a tool where you can analyze different bodies and different shapes and different 3D models to optimize those models themselves for machining. So there's some places where we're making mold or mold cavities, and there's companies that are doing this using PowerShape to find the best approach and the tapers that they need and the different tools that they would need to be able to make those molds most efficiently, and even adding different textures to work in those molds. If you're optimizing sprue gates to get into your cope and die, these are places where PowerShape really lends itself to be able to get the optimized flow of plastics or metals into your mold, as well as the shape itself. Adding things like ribs and bosses in places where it makes most sense, and even reducing some of that material to make it a more rigid product in the end, as well as helping you design your mold. So PowerShape, like it says in the second bullet point there, refining that geometry to optimize the machining process. And that's where we use PowerShape. Okay. And PowerMill. So this is PowerShape and PowerMill go very nicely together as they're developed to be tools that really integrate well within each other. And so the PowerMill is more of your higher end, if you will, expert CAM solution, right? So if you're making parts for the automotive industry, like ports in an engine, or if you're making impellers, if you're making other components for like pumps for the aerospace industry, PowerMill is the tool. You get a very high level of precision and control with the tool path, so that the tool can be very focused in a specific area, remove the material in a very efficient way, and you're going to avoid collision with the tool holder or the tool itself. So it's a high or highly effective control that you can have on your tool using PowerMill. And it's again integrated, so we do have some integrated verification tools where you can show your machine simulation. You can set it up with your actual machine and the parameters and even limitations of your machine to see that you're not going to crash, to see that you're able to get your tool pass on your parts very safe and without having any crashes on your machine, which especially if you're making aerospace parts, and they can be very expensive and you don't want to have a slip. This way you can simulate and verify before you bring it to the machine if you're going to have any collisions with the tool or the tool holder. So that's where PowerMill gives you that precision and control, as well as those tools to be able to check and make sure you're not going to have any collisions. Right? And you can see we do have a robust set of tool paths to be able to work on most parts. This will extend a little bit beyond when we talk about HSM, which is an integrated tool. It's very powerful. It does have many tools that you or paths that you can work with. But PowerMill adds a little bit of more control to some of those tool paths that are for complex parts. Okay. And Moldflow. So one of the places that we see today is the process is getting much, much easier. We have many more people who are getting into designs where they can make mass-produced molds, as well as even cast molds as well. So here we have a tool that would optimize that process. You could simulate, you could set up to find out where you can get the most flow within a mold cavity. And you could find out where the cooling happens. If you get any parting lines or any lines that are in there as faults, you can optimize and eliminate any of those places where you could see inside of the mold. You can simulate and you can maximize in a virtual world what is happening inside of your mold, and really reduce those cycle times. You can really set up the time it would take to make a mold, and it really helps you optimize your flow within that mold cavity. So these are tools. This tool, Moldflow, is sorry, losing my train of thought there. This one tool will help you, especially if you're doing some of the injection mold designs in a place that you can't get inside that mold. There's a lot of thermistors you would put to be able to get in to see what's happening. This is one way that you could simulate it and save yourself a lot of time to market there. And that's one of the things that's really important these days, because we do have a lot of competitors in the injection mold market. We're trying to get as many components or many parts out, especially in the holiday season with toys, right? And places where we have molded parts that we're trying to get into industry quick. And so this is one tool that's really going to help and benefit and get you to the market quicker. And I think that's all I have. I just want to give you guys a good overview of what those different tools are specific to manufacturing. In Autodesk, we do have a lot of tools specific to design, and there are some tools that we have for the building industry as well, and architectural industry. And in the future, that's where we see a convergence. We see that building industry and architecture, as well as product design and product development, and also especially the manufacturing of those, really kind of going down this same path in the future. And so we want to make sure that you guys know that you have a good understanding of the direction that Autodesk is heading, as well as the development we have today to make you very successful with the products you're trying to design and manufacture. So that's what I wanted to cover today, George and Kristen. I don't know if we have any questions, but if there are any, I'm happy to answer any of those questions that our audience would have.
Hi, Wayne. This is George again. One question. Did you mention that HSM will work directly with SolidWorks?
Yes, sir. Yep. HSM was developed in the early to mid 2000s, And HSM has a version called HSM Works. And HSM Works is a integration tool that was developed to specifically be a plugin inside of SolidWorks. And that interface was, again, we're a gold partner. They were developing specific for that interface. And today we still have a plugin. We still have HSM Works that our customers can use in our collection. In our collection, it comes as HSM. And you'll have a plugin that'll work inside of Inventor as well as SolidWorks. But it does use the native SolidWorks environment that you can put toolpaths directly onto the parts inside of SolidWorks.
Great, thank you. I think that was the only question. So I guess just to wrap up, there was certainly a lot of information delivered today, a lot of overview and features of the various products. So if you do have questions or comments afterward, certainly when people walk away from this, they have kind of that aha moment a few minutes later, please don't hesitate to reach out to M2. And we'll coordinate with Wayne to get those answers, those questions answered appropriately. We certainly do appreciate everybody's time. Again, George over here at M2. We will post this up to our website here in the next few days. And if you do go up to our new website, which was just relaunched just a few short months ago, you can see the previous series of webinars, and continue to check back up because we will continue to host these as we develop them. Wayne, thank you very much for joining us. Certainly our pleasure. Everybody, I hope you have a great day, great rest of your week, and we hope to see you again on a future webinar.
Thank you, George, and thank you, Kristen, and the team at M2 Technologies for having me on to be able to present to the audience. So I really do appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye now.